Hello and welcome to After School Special, the Miss Marvel reaction show from the Comic Crush. I am one of your hosts, Paul. Welcome to the show, our final episode, big finale this week. Lots happening in Miss Marvel, lots happening here. To help us get through it all, let's bring Liz on.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well. Yeah. Very excited to talk about this finale.
Indeed, but you're going to have to belay your excitement just for a moment, Liz, because there's one thing we've got to address, which is you've gone off and done another podcast with someone else. I'm somewhat hurt by this, I must say. No, I'm not really. So, Liz, you appeared again on Trick or Treat Radio just this week. I think the episode was out kind of early this morning for us in the UK. I will put a link to it in the description. What movie did you talk about this time?
We talked about the film Duel, starring Karen Gillan, written and directed by Riley Stearns.
Okay.
We did a film called The Art of Self-Defense and another called Faults.
So Art of Self-Defense is the movie with
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, that's been out a while.
Yeah, I mean, that was the film that came before this one. This one just came out in 2022.
Okay.
I still haven't seen Art of Self-Defense, but I hear it's very good. And I watched the trailer for it, sort of leading up to talking about Duel, and it looks good, and like it's got some of the same sensibilities as Duel.
Oh, cool! Like I do want to see both. I'm up for anything Karen Gillan does. She does a lot of really interesting, good little stuff. She did a good little horror movie, I think, called The Outcast a few years ago or something like that. I can never remember. I got it somewhere in the house, lost in a pile of DVDs. And I believe she's directed one of her own sort of scripts recently. So I'm always up to kind of see what she's doing. Love her performances in Guardians and things. Art of Self-Defense certainly looks good. I think it's one of those films that's probably designed to make you uncomfortable in terms of the interactions with the characters. But again, not seen it, only seen the trailer like yourself. Yep. But it's good to see you on other podcasts, and I'm really pleased that you were guesting again on that. And I will put a link, as I said, to that just down here. Also, we have to say happy belated birthday to one of our most loyal viewers, Kathleen Jordan. Hello. Thank you for watching every week. Happy birthday. Kathleen is, of course, Liz's mum.
Yeah.
Watches the show every week, I'm told. So just want to say happy birthday to you, Kathleen. I hope you have a great birthday celebration this weekend coming up. And I hope you had a good birthday as well.
And happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you for watching. So Liz, Miss Marvel this week. What a great ending, eh?
Yeah, it was. Lots and lots happens in this episode. A lot of threads to tie up, as we sort of probably mentioned last week. We're back in New Jersey, and basically tying up everything that was set up, from the beginning in episode 1, with her family and her friendship group and her community. So, so lots to discuss.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find this? I've got to say, this is one of those things where, normally you cry at the end. I found myself crying at the beginning, middle, and ending of this. I had a good couple of good, comfort cries in this. They generally hit the emotional high points. Love the fact that her family are now in on the big secret.
Yeah, I mean, so that is something I have to say I hadn't expected going into the show, but I think it works for wrapping up the series. If they only ever do one season of Ms. Marvel, I think that's a nice way to cap it off, and kind of close that side of of the story. So and obviously they adjust to it pretty well, um, which I felt was a little rushed, maybe for me. It was sweet.
I really liked it. I think it makes perfect sense because once her mum knows, how the hell else are you going to keep it a secret? You're not really.
No.
It becomes sort of impractical, and also it does away with secret identities, which Marvel do not like. Well, not they don't like them, but they don't. None of the Marvel characters really have secret identities, except as we talked about, last week, I believe, Spidey.
Spider-Man.
And in a way, I think a lot of this episode gives us a kind of look at what Peter could have had if he just hadn't, maybe if he'd just ridden out the whole thing with Mysterio, and if he'd kind of ridden that whole thing out, and it gives him what he did have, which is lots of loving and acceptance from his family and friends that, hey, yeah, you're Spider-Man, and we'll help you balance your life, and
which they did. So, I mean, they did do. Like May knew, and
sure,
best friends, and MJ knew. So, so I mean, that side of it, was okay for Peter. It was more the world at large that that didn't work out for Peter finding out. So,
but then leads him to kind of erase everyone's knowledge of Spider-Man, which it's. We still haven't fully dealt with the ramifications of, and probably won't for a little while now. But I kind of found this to be a nice alternate companion piece to that idea, to those sets of ideas and ideals, and also just gives you some really nice heartwarming moments. Like I love the fact that the mum's gone and told them already before she gets to make her big announcement.
Yeah. Well, that's what it says. Everything really about cute. Her mom and about her family and just the way they all operate.
But it is a conversation I would have liked to have seen. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I would have liked to have seen that moment and that. But it also you then get, Nakia kind of telling her about what's happened to Bruno. There's been this explosion at the Circle Q thanks to the drone from Damage Control. Bruno and Cameron are missing. We don't know what's happened to them at this juncture. But you also get what I think was like the first emotional high point and the first moment that I cried in this episode, which was, a mum comes up to her room and says, you're not leaving the house dressed like that. And she hands her, one of the toffee boxes with the new costume in, and I blubbed like a fucking bitch. Like, I cried. There were tears, Liz. I thought that was a genuine emotional high point.
It was very sweet. It was very sweet. Yeah. She's got her mom's acceptance. Obviously, I think her mom must have used the things that she picked up in Karachi, the blue cloth given to her by the Red Dagger, and also the scarf given to her by Kareem. And also the symbol, which was, I thought that was a really nice way to incorporate the symbol. It was, it was the necklace that she had worn.
Yeah.
And the costume looks great, actually. When she actually puts it on, it looks really, really good. Like,
it looks believable, which I think is the key thing. It looks believable because it still manages, unlike the other costumes, which are all kind of furnished by high-tech companies, usually Tony Stark or alien races. It looks like a homemade costume, so still retains that charm, and yet still has the air of kind of superiorness about it. And she's got the little domino mask, and I feel that was terrific. I love that. A genuinely heartwarming moment in a series of genuinely heartwarming moments. I think that was And in fact, this episode had tons of them. I thought well, quite a few, you know.
Right.
So genuinely moved by that. But then we kind of get to this thing with the mask and damage control are kind of searching for Bruno and Cameron. I liked the kind of subterfuge that Nakia and the others arranged. I thought that was quite sweet. And Nakia kind of revealing her boyfriend or not boyfriend. I never got if that was like a ruse or if he was actually her secret boyfriend.
No, I don't think he was. I think that was definitely a ruse, but he was pretty, pleased about it. He was quite happy to offer himself up as, as a dupe.
What a sacrifice, eh?
Yeah.
And of course we see Kamala taking a kind of run across the city. Now, again, that was a moment that really got to me. I thought was lovely because that was very triumphant, where she's kind of running through the skies. And the very cute moment of her stopping at the lights, which I just thought was adorable. Like, absolutely adorable. Because that says everything about her, that side of her character.
Right.
Where she kind of stays within the rules.
Yeah. It's cute. Yeah, it was very cute.
But also that I think more than any other scene, perhaps, or as much as the scenes that come later, that speaks to the kind of gamification of this show. Like, there is a video game sense in this show, and there is a kind of sense of playfulness that I think is absent from a lot of other Marvel stuff, like a genuine sense of playfulness, a genuine kind of heartfelt playfulness that's missing from a lot of other Marvel stuff. But it's absolutely brought to the fore here, and I think that kind of really
right. And I think it's very appropriate to this series because of because of the character, because of the tone of of a sort of teen-led show.
Yeah. And I think that's partly why I liked, looking back on it now as a whole series, it's why I liked all the kind of giant texts and stuff in the sky and using the environment as a kind of...
I liked it a lot more going on.
Right.
Like, the first episode, I felt like it was pretty heavy-handed, but it was obviously just kind of setting that up as a device, which I ended up enjoying a lot throughout the series.
I think for me, the element of that is a couple of things. One, again, it speaks to the gamification and playfulness of life. And two, that is a precursor to what Kamala will do, which is she will stand astride the city. She will make the environment her playground, and that to me kind of spoke to that. Once you get to this episode, you can look back at that and go, oh, okay, yeah, I can see where we're kind of going with this now, and there's a through line, at least for me. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. The whole thing with the high school. I mean, am I right in saying that's where we go to next? We head down to the high school next? Because
so Cameron and Bruno are being pursued by damage control.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron is having a lot of trouble with this surge of powers that his mother has imbued him with, that he's not used to having to wield. So he can't really control the powers. It's like so he can't really be in a public environment, like when they go onto the subway. He can't control what he's doing. So Bruno takes him to a place that's empty, which is the high school. So he's really struggling, and Bruno is trying his best to help him, but what they really need to figure out is how to get him out of there. So Kamala comes up with a plan to get him to Kareem out in Karachi. So Kareem agrees to help him. and so they just need to come around to the docks by midnight. I think it is. Yeah.
A couple of interesting things come up in the high school. Principally, I like the fact, one, there's a sense in a lot of high school stuff, particularly older high school films, of, hey kids, we can't, you know, the local theatre's just burned down, or so we've got to do the show right here, you know. And it was, for me, that was their version of that. Two, I loved Kamala's brother just showing up out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
great.
Yeah, that was great, you know.
He just walks in and he kind of starts adding the plan and the drawing board. I loved that. I thought that was awesome. Where they're kind of redrawing.
Yeah, Nakia shows up, then Zoe shows up. You know.
Yeah, like it was great, and I thought that was really heartwarming as well, because you know that Zoe was the girl that had kind of, although they didn't harp on it, she did kind of pick on her in that first episode.
Yeah, or you know, she didn't really bully her
or dismiss her. She was very dismissive. And it was, I liked the reveal of the fact that actually Zoe knew all along that it was Kamala. She was just like, yeah, she saved my life. Like, what am I going to do? So I really liked that element of it. And I liked the kind of Goonies-esque
plan that they come up with.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of really sweet and kind of you know, harks back to a lot of stuff I used to watch.
Home Alone, you know.
Absolutely. Home Alone. There you go. Like that definitely kind of really warmed my heart. But you know, not a sequence that was without danger,
right?
And without menace and without threat. And I really kind of felt that they balanced those two things well, especially once you get outside the high school and it becomes a much kind of larger canvas. And you know, Cameron unable to really control his own temper, and therefore with it the powers.
Right.
Was there anything in the high school sequence that you wanted to mark out, or in particular, or?
I just thought it was actually a super fun sequence. Like, you know, it was just it just had all this like charm to it that, you know, I think you can't really compare it to any other of the big Marvel showdowns in that way, because it is so much, you know, the idea of a bunch of teenagers having to fight back against the adults, you know.
And I love the kind of the embiggen moment, which I thought was great.
That was really great.
I'm not even sure if that's a word.
Well, it is something that she says to herself, like, you know, and it's something that she does in the comics. So this is the first time you really see her do it properly.
And again, she stands astride the city. She becomes a giant. She becomes the main event. And I really liked what that says about, you know, and again, it's probably cheesy, but standing in your power and being the thing and being the one. And I really liked that. I freaking loved it. And also I loved how sweet she was with the kind of the SWAT guys when she wrecks the sort of gun, the sonic gun they're using, and then kind of goes, "Are you guys okay?" I thought that was lovely. That was so sweet. And of course they address her as Miss Nightlight, and she's just like, no, not like that. I thought that was an incredible kind of nice, cute moment. And again, it's a character moment. It speaks to the two sides of the character. Sorry, please.
Yeah. The other thing that, you know, we haven't mentioned is, yes, like all her friends come out to help her in the high school. Her brother comes out to help her in the high school. But outside the high school, her whole community comes to support her.
Yeah. Sorry. One thing we didn't hit was the almost kiss between her and Cameron that Bruno catches.
Oh, yeah.
Bruno.
Poor old Bruno. Yeah.
To his credit, he
takes it in stride.
He takes it in his stride. Sorry, you were saying about the community coming to help her outside the high school.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems as though at this point, everybody knows who she is, but they're all there for her. Which I thought was very sweet, and really speaks to what we know about her community is that they they really they are a big family. And sort of they were all willing to kind of stand up to damage control. And during part of the confrontation, they all do stand in the way of damage control, including the cops. And everybody says, nope, you're not getting through.
But do you remember can you think about the other times we've seen that in Marvel movies though? Like obviously the one that comes to mind for me is
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Well, actually, and the first Spider-Man, does it not happen in there with Gwen Stacy on the bridge? They because it was done post sort of 9/11, and I think they wanted a very
Gwen
kind
Stacy's
of New York
not
Not Gwen. Sorry, with Mary Jane. That does actually happen in I think the original Spider-Man movie, where
I don't remember that. I remember very much Spider-Man 2, where he's on the subway and they all the people they take off his mask and everybody then has to kind of protect his identity and
but also it's also part of, funny enough, again another Spider-Man movie. I think it's also part of the Amazing Spider-Man. There's a moment in that, I believe, where kind of the community comes together in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man stuff. So it is very much part of the kind of New York superhero culture and kind of tropes, I think. But also we've seen negative sides of that as well. I mean, when you look at the stuff in Sokovia, in I think Age of Ultron at the beginning, when they kind of don't want the Iron Legion there and that sort of stuff. And so there are kind of good and bad sides to that. But I really like this. I found this really heartwarming. It was another kind of single tear moment for me. I was very touched by it. And they do get Cameron away, and of course Diva gets fired. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, get rid of. Although I've got a feeling she's going to be trouble in later films and shows.
It seems likely. I can't imagine we've seen the last of her.
And I'm surprised there wasn't some kind of post-credit thing for her. I'm sure they gave you enough information to make it clear that she doesn't seem like she was even that phased about getting fired. She probably has no plans to stop doing what she's doing. No, probably not. And I really like the kind of wrap up stuff. Is there anything you want to say about the kind of sequences with out in the street before we get to that? Sorry, I don't want to step on your
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really nice. Her community protects her, she protects them. They get Cameron away to safety. I thought all of that wrapped up very nicely.
Yeah, I thought it was an incredibly kind of touching episode. But of course we're given a couple of moments towards the end, and again another moment where I had a little cry, I have to admit. So with Kamala and her father outside on the roof, and he talks about the things she's done and how she's protected people, and we see Cameron finds his way to Karachi. Bruno we see slips a little note inside Kamala's locker, which we can only assume is a confession of love.
We probably that is the conclusion we're probably meant to draw, but
we can only hope that that's what it's going to be, which I thought was really sweet.
Well, yeah, because he's going off to Caltech, possibly in Cameron's mom's car.
Yeah. Yeah, very flash car. And also, is Nakia going to Caltech too? Nakia's like after, like, unless she was just joking around. Because,
no, I don't think so. I think she said she thought the car would look better on the streets of New Jersey. You know,
but also we in that. Okay, so I want to talk about the moment with Kamala and her father first, and then the other moment that comes from that. So the we go all the way back to like episode 2 or 3 when she was told her name wasn't really a Pakistani name, quite dismissively. Oh, it's not really a Pakistani name. You know, it's quite judgmental. And her father tells her, you know, we called you Kamala because it's Arabic for perfect, and we, you know, we really wanted a second baby and we didn't know it was going to happen, and then you came along, and I absolutely loved his line reading where he says, "You were so perfect." And I like absolutely kind of right in the heart, and just totally beautiful. And I'm freaking sitting
I mean, her dad is such a sweet character.
Yeah.
You know, he's you know, and the actor just you know, just
it's a terrific actor.
He is.
Like you know, and I was just sitting there, you know, I was blubbing by this stage. Like I was really crying. And where he kind of says to her, you know, the name means perfect, but in Urdu it means wonder or marvel, and just like that, it's just like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, he gives her name, and of course there's her excitement at being, I'm, and it's the first time I've ever heard anyone refer to Danvers as Captain Marvel, because she was like, oh, I've got the same name as Carol Danvers. And it's just like, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone refer, because I don't remember anyone actually. You know, you hear people say Iron Man, you hear people say Captain America or Ant-Man, but you only ever hear it once or twice. It's not like they go, and again, it's one of the things of the Marvel Universe. They don't go around calling each other Captain America or Ant-Man or Black Widow.
Right, they call them by their first names, or you know.
So it's the first time I've ever, like, I don't remember from the Captain Marvel movie that anyone actually ever addresses her as Captain Marvel.
Probably not from the film. I think in Endgame,
right,
and you know, and stuff like that. I'm sure we've heard it, but
okay. And I think it's all kind of implied from Marvel to, you know, and all that stuff, but. I loved her kind of excitement, and you just see that light bulb go off where it's just like, oh yeah, that's something, you know, the father says, you were always our little Miss Marvel. And again, just tears. Sweet. Niagara Falls on my couch, Liz, I'm telling you.
It was a lovely way to give her the name. It really was.
It was beautiful. And I loved his wonderment of watching her kind of run off into the night, and just you see his face lit up by the colours of the Nor and all that, and bang, bang, bang as she's going across. You know, fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. But then we get this other big moment.
That I wasn't expecting.
I've got to say, I was not expecting it. So I managed to pretty much avoid spoilers for this one, although it was tough with trending topics on Twitter and things, as it always is. But we're told that Kamala's genetic makeup includes a mutation. Yeah. Yeah, and you even get the little X-Men 92.
I loved that. I loved it.
I'm sure Paul Taylor, hello Paul, if you're watching, I hope you are. I'm sure he had a field day with that.
I'm sure that was the high point. I mean, and it was a high point. You know, I think for you know, for anyone watching.
So obviously we didn't get to do Doctor Strange together, but we did get to talk to one of our, like the one of the patrons, and also like one of our kind of ardent supporters and friends of the show, Mr. Paul Taylor, who we went for a drink with him back in May when Liz was over, and he had said to me, like, can we talk about the greatest moment in MCU history, which for him was the X-Men cartoon theme being played over as Patrick Stewart makes his appearance in
I
Doctor
mean,
Strange
yeah, that
and
was.
the
I mean,
Multiverse of Madness.
right. I think he was not alone in thinking that was the most incredible thing. And this, this is right up there. This is how we're introducing the idea of the X-Men and mutations into the MCU proper. Because, I mean, as it was in Doctor Strange, that was a Professor X of a different universe, whereas this is our 616 Kamala.
But
theoretically,
But it is a thing I was thinking about just before we did the show. If the Professor X of that multiverse was the 92 Professor X in the yellow chair, the cartoon Professor X, effectively, if you like, and the music's playing then, and we get to this moment when it's revealed that, hey, Kamala is a mutant, possibly, and they're playing that X-Men theme again. Not the X-Men theme that Michael Kamen wrote, which I think of as the X-Men thing, because that was my introduction to X-Men, really. So not that, not that one, which I like. But we get this other one, and I wonder if the X-Men, as we're going to see them in the MCU, if we see them in the MCU, I'm sure we will in fact be more rooted in those versions, the cartoon versions, than they will be in any other version.
That would be an interesting way to take it, because we know that years ago, when all of this stuff was being announced, they announced an animated X-Men 97 series. Which seemed like just an interesting. Well, yeah, it is, and it seemed like an interesting project. I mean, because obviously the animated series is beloved by so many people, but it was like, oh, well, that's kind of a strange thing to reintroduce, but you may just be right. They may be planning to introduce those characters as similar to the ones from the show. That would be a really cool way to take characters that we've already seen in films and everything, but give them a semi-new identity in the sort of live action.
Yeah, and I keep wondering, will the end of the X-Men 97 cartoon series be that some portal opens up somewhere, and when those cartoon characters step through it, we get live action X-Men? You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I mean, I doubt it, but
who knows?
We got the cartoon Captain Carter effectively for Doctor Strange, so maybe there's going to be an element of that. And
I mean, they've proven that, the what if stuff transfers right into the films very seamlessly.
Yeah. So lots to kind of think about and look at. Not least, of course, the very end of the show, because there is a post credit scene.
Yes.
Now this was a big one.
Yeah.
Although I think it's slightly overshadowed by the one before for me.
Yeah, I agree. But again, another big development that was surprising.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it.
So I've got to give a shout out to another one of our patrons and good friends, Christian, who brought up something very interesting on Twitter, and he put like a spoiler barrier warning in front of it, so you had to click on the thing because it was a spoiler for the end of the show. So God bless you, Christian, for doing that. Thank you. But he posed an interesting question, because what we see is the bracelet suddenly activates and Kamala is kind of thrown into her own closet and flips around and disappears. And in her place is Carol Danvers.
Right.
Now, the thing that Christian has brought up is, I think this means that the other bracelet is actually with Carol. And it's the thing that she wears You know, she's got the wrist kind of thing that she wore in the original Captain Marvel movie, and in fact, what the bracelet actually is a type of negaband.
Right.
How do
Which,
you feel about that?
well,
theory?
when back in episode, I want to say 3 or 4, something like that, we saw when the clandestines were down in that sort of well, with all the symbols and everything. There was I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was like some sort of Cree technology down there. So it would make absolute sense that somehow this is the kind of companion.
And you pointed
bracelet.
out that the hand that they pulled that.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Blue,
It
right?
wasn't. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a Cree hand. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, oh yes, it was a Cree hand. So yes, absolutely, like that makes sense. And it is a comics thing that Carol and Kamala can sort of almost trade places.
Right. Okay.
So this is how they're I mean, we haven't talked about it yet, but yes, Kamala sort of taps the bangle, and all of a sudden she is whisked away and replaced by a very confused Carol Danvers, who winds up in her bedroom.
We don't know where Kamala's gone, and we won't find out until
we won't find out until the Marvels,
2023.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting way. I was wondering how they were going to bring that storyline, and if they were even going to explain anything about it in the show. But a really good stinger.
Yeah, and I really hope that when the Marvel starts, that's where we pick things up, with them finding Carol in Kamala's bedroom. Like I would really love that. Like I can only hope that like it's going to be a sort of kind of very kind of farcical opening to that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like for me, like this has been the most entertaining and fun of the MCU shows, and probably the one I flat out enjoyed the most.
I loved it. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I still think for me probably Moon Knight and Hawkeye were the best, but like on a level of out and out pure enjoyment, I think this has been the one that I've kind of, and I wasn't expecting that, because at the end of the day, it's a movie about high schoolers, and which I'm very far away from now.
But I think that's like a kind of it's a timeless sort of
Yeah.
It's a thing that anyone, no matter what age you are, like those are the formative years in your life, and everybody can kind of relate. I always think that's what makes those shows so accessible to anybody, and I felt that way about this one for sure. And I agree that it was just a really, really enjoyable show, and a great introduction to her character.
And I'm certainly rooting, as with Moon Knight, I'm certainly rooting more than any other for a second season of this.
I'd love a second season of this. I mean, I always feel that way. At the end of any of these MCU shows, far, the only one that's like a dead cert is Loki, which is now filming season 2.
Yeah, there's been plenty of pictures in the last week or so of Loki, Tom Hiddleston in his back in his TVA uniform. Certainly lots of stuff with Ian Wilson. So we'll wait and see what's going on. There were some other kind of big moments as well, which we kind of should quickly address before we leave. So we had, first of all, in Secret Invasion, apparently Chloe Bennett will return as Quake. I don't know if this is true. This was just a rumor.
Right. But I think that would be cool.
It'd be an interesting way to start tying up, kind of, because it seems that they're now on a bit of a mission to bring all that stuff back in house.
Yeah, which I think is great.
In much the same way as Star Wars has done with a lot of the kind of expanded universe stuff. They're trying to kind of cohesively bring it all together. Also, Kristen Ritter will return as Jessica Jones in She-Hulk: Attorney at Law. Now,
I love that. I mean, and I've been hoping for that. I really think that, that would be a great place for Jessica to finally, turn up again.
Yes.
Because everybody was sort of theorizing that it would be Matt, because that would also make sense. But I
think, yeah. Sorry.
I think Jessica, would be a perfect fit for that show.
This is my only thing now is I don't know how excited I really want to get for one scene cameos.
Well, who says it's going to be a one scene cameo?
Well, no, but Daredevil comes back into the MCU via a one scene cameo, and that's it. And I want to see more. Really, if I'm gonna kind of be asked to cheerlead, I really want to see more.
Sure, but I think it was very appropriate for Daredevil to appear in that one scene cameo because of everything else the film had to do, and I was like, so many people in the cinema, just flipped out when I saw him.
Actually, that wasn't the moment, as we said during the No Way Home pod. That wasn't the moment when I went to see it that got the biggest cheer.
Well, the biggest cheer was Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, which I was really shocked at.
No, I wasn't shocked at all. That's
we'd gone through several years of everyone going, these are crap Spider-Man movies.
But it was the moment everyone was waiting for. It was like, it wasn't, it was, it was the confirmation that you were going to get all three Spider-Man in one film. But we're going off topic. I think I'll be super excited. I'll be super excited to see Kristen Ritter show up anywhere, but I think She-Hulk would be a perfect place for her to do so.
Okay. Lastly, one other bit of news. Whether or not this is true, we'll have to wait and see. Allegedly, Feige and the MCU team have approached Steven Spielberg about the possibility of directing the Fantastic Four. I don't think this is true. And I've got a feeling that he would turn it down. It would be very interesting to see. He is a man known for going, I remember him kind of really berating digital filmmaking and then doing Tintin and then really berating streaming services and then doing, West Side Story, which effectively went straight to streaming more or less. So I don't know.
I mean, in a way, I think I love Spielberg. I
think it's an interesting.
I can kind of see his sensibilities working for the Fantastic Four. However, I really like that the MCU tends to go with sort of more up and coming directors. So in a way, I'd kind of prefer to just see somebody who doesn't have such a strong brand, I suppose.
Okay, but I just want to point out a thing about Phase 4, which has been, for me, the better films have been made by the older hands. Raimi for Doctor Strange, Black Widow, Kate Shortland, the more experienced filmmakers, rather than the guys who have made one film and then.
I think if we're talking about Chloe Zhao, which I would be. That's
you know what? I can't speak to that because I haven't seen Chloe Zhao's other, the couple of movies she did before.
I don't think she's a bad director. I just think I would agree that maybe in that instance it didn't sort of fit with the tone of the larger MCU.
I think though, apparently they're going ahead with more Eternals.
Apparently, yeah, which I'm surprised, to be perfectly honest.
But I think that is the very modern thing with large film studios now and this type of material. which is, if we don't get the critical acclaim and the money, we're going to force it down your throat some other way until it all clicks. And I think it's that combination where they want both.
Sure.
You know?
I mean,
yeah, I mean, Eternals was an odd film. I'm yet to revisit it. I do want to. I would like to listen to her commentary on it to see what she's kind of got to say about what she was trying to achieve.
I think if nothing else, everybody will they're guaranteed to get bums on seats, if they put Harry Styles in it.
Yeah, I do that.
Whether or not he'll take a big role, in that particular film, we don't know, but
it'd be interesting if he does. Yeah. Wait and see. So lots seemingly happening in the MCU. Sorry, I'm really tired now. It's so hot here. It's wearing the old man out. And
I did actually want to mention before we wrap
please,
up.
go for it.
Because we were just talking about MCU projects that I, am semi-surprised that they're, sort of willing to acknowledge. I did want to mention about the Inhumans because, it is just, it's an interesting thing that they've done with Kamala.
Yeah, so they've taken her origin away from the Inhumans element.
Right, which is it's a funny thing that she even wound up being an Inhuman, and it all had to do with the MCU.
Yes, because
at that particular point in time.
Yeah, my understanding is, and Liz, you'll know more about this, so please correct me, is that they didn't really see a future for X-Men in the MCU because they were owned by Fox, and it was long before their plans to buy Fox. So they pretty much killed off the X-Men in comics, didn't they? For a while, didn't they? They kind of literally killed them, yeah. And they brought in the Inhumans to kind of be the replacement X-Men, which the audience didn't really
respond.
No, although there have been some good Inhuman series, as I understand.
There have, but it was kind of Marvel trying to cram the Inhumans down everyone's throat.
Yeah.
And they had announced Inhumans as a film initially. Then I think closer to them sort of making a deal with Fox, they sort of got, took that off the slate, but they did come out with a TV series that was nobody really watched. It wasn't very good.
Although, given the cast of that show now, I think there would be, Anson Mount has talked about how he'd love to come back and do, and he in fact
I'd
he
love
did
to
for
see it,
Doctor Strange,
Yeah, I'd actually love to see a good Inhumans series or film, because
sorry.
Because as you say, the cast was really good. The show had no budget. The effects looked terrible. It seemed as though they had already kind of made up their mind that it wasn't going to really be a successful series that they were going to pursue anything with.
I do want to revisit it because it's only 10 episodes or something. It wasn't very long.
No.
I think that Black Bolt is one of the more interesting comics characters, I think. I quite like the idea of that character. I like the idea.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it's a way that you could kind of have another where we had characters using sign language and things in previous, in the Eternals. That's another opportunity to do that with that character.
And I mean, now we're on another big kill rampage in Marvel Comics at the moment for the mutants, because the Eternals seem to have decided that the mutants are in fact deviants, and therefore
they need to kill them.
They got to be wiped out. Yeah, and this is Kieran Gillen's big kind of event, Axe, I think it's called.
Judgment Day.
Avengers X-Men Judgment Day.
Yeah, Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals, So they are still really bigging up the Eternals, and I feel like it's all a similar thing to kind of what they did with the Inhumans.
Yes.
Back in 2014 or whatever, when Ms. Marvel came out.
I've got a couple of comments. Like, we should really talk about the comments we did get on Thor, because obviously we won't be doing another Thor podcast for a while. But I do want to talk about a quick reaction from a friend of mine, Laura, on Miss Marvel, and actually bringing up the same points you did. So the comment is, I hope she won't mind reading this out. They made Miss Marvel a mutant. Logs off. So, but she doesn't like the MCU adaptations. Although, again, as we've talked about, I don't really feel they're adaptations. They're their own. It's its own universe.
It is, and I do actually really like that they chose to make her a mutant instead, because I think that the whole point of making her an Inhuman was done for a very intentional reason that had everything to do with the MCU. And now the fact that they're doing the exact same thing, except by making her a mutant, it's like, that works for me.
The rest of her comment is, I don't mind the retcon. It's kind of ironic because she was originally supposed to be a mutant, but then they made her an Inhuman, probably because probably the most famous Inhumans, or most like, I'm just being a salty Sheldon Cooper when men in suits shoehorn my X-Men. She's a big X-Men fan. Shoehorn my X-Men as an afterthought into any conversation. So thank you for the comment, Laura. Cheers for that.
I understand her protectiveness of the X-Men for sure.
But also, we can, if we can, just briefly touch on the comments we got from the Thor podcast, which, sorry guys, was a very, very chaotic podcast due to the fact that I think I was in a bit of an odd mood that night, and I just wanted to kind of skip to the end. So we did get a couple of comments. One from Rob.
Rob Deb, very good friend.
Our very good friend Rob Deb. 1 hour in, you'll like this. 1 hour in, Liz is right in regards to the outcome. But given Thor thought they would be involved, he would have tried at the time of Thanos, was my view. So again, going back on to what one of the points I brought up that Rob had brought up, which was where were the gods during the time of Thanos? But he was kind of in retrospect agreeing with what you were saying, which I don't remember what that was.
They just wouldn't. Well, that they were too self-involved to get involved.
So we do just have another couple of comments to deal with. Also from Rob, 49 minutes. Yes, I agree. Chitty chitty bang, the chitty chitty bang bang element I can see, but I didn't at the time, which was me saying that Christian Bale was going for the child catcher, chitty chitty bang bang. Nikki, our pal Nikki, who's done, he did the Batman podcast with us and has done some shows with us. My Nikki. So okay, she made a few comments. So I'm going to try and get through them all. Okay, so at first, when I saw the Hercules reveal, I was underwhelmed until I realised it was Ted Lasso's Roy Kent. Oh, Paul, you're going to hate the next movie. Just don't even go and see it. I'm so amped to see this dude play this role.
So, I've still not seen Ted Lasso, so I am actually dying to see. I've heard it's great.
I can't remember his name now, but he's absolutely brilliant as Roy Kent. So interesting point about GNR, which was the point I made about the kind of political side of Guns N' Roses versus the ideals of Taika Waititi. I mean, I don't know if they're as bad as Motley Crue in respect to women, but I did think the amount of tracks was somewhat overkill. When I saw the poster on Axl's wall, I knew we were going to get blasted with a bunch more tracks. It's just like, why? It's not like they made the songs for the movie. So.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, I
Um,
think we talked about this on the show, but I do feel like he chooses this, like these kind of bombastic, like 80s, sort of like metal rock songs, as the soundtracks to, his, his films, which is kind of a weird juxtaposition for this guy who's got these very indie sensibilities.
Yeah.
But it's very intentional, I feel.
He apparently has come out and said, I don't know if this is true or just, something that's been kind of said to keep the conversation going about Thor. I wanted a load of Kate Bush tracks in there, but Stranger Things ruined it for me. So, the whole thing with running up that hill, which has kind of not revitalized, but has really boosted Kate Bush's record sales, and quite rightly.
And they're amazing records, yeah.
So Nikki also writes 30 minutes in. She made a bunch of comments on this show. So thank you for commenting, Nikki. We really appreciate it. 30 minutes in, I was rooting for Christian Bale too. This goes to what we were talking about. Legit cried like a little bitch after the opening scene.
I was like, I was really moved by it. I thought it was really sad.
And in fact, Laura said to me in a message, she was just like, I can't believe that you wanted to see like his entire family die.
I know.
I just said it needed a bit more context and a bit more I should have brought up that comment. But I do want to thank everyone, Laura, Nikki, Rob. Thank you guys for commenting. If anyone wants to leave a comment on any of the shows, please do. We will read it out. The next thing for us, the next major thing for us, Liz, is She-Hulk. But in between that, we're hoping to do some more stuff, depending on mutual schedules. Umbrella Academy and the
boys, I think.
The boys wrap up, which I finally got to finish watching just yesterday. I finally kind of finished the series, because it was it's just taken a bit of time for me to sort of catch it. I haven't started Umbrella Academy yet. I don't know about you.
No, I haven't actually.
I've
been so busy with watching other things, but yeah, it's all on there, so I'm looking forward to like a good binge.
And it does go back to, I find, like the pod that you and Claire Lim did way back in 2019, I want to say, where one of the shows you guys did together was, is there too much stuff on streaming now? Are there too many channels? Is there too many? And the answer is probably yes, in a way. I mean, I just got through watching the show on the making of The Godfather, which was great, on Paramount Plus. But it's another new streaming channel, and there's lots to watch. Even I can't get through them anymore. I had to abandon watching. I was really enjoying. Speaking of sort of female teen superhero characters, I was really enjoying Stargirl.
I've heard really good things about that. Funnily enough, on the podcast I guested on yesterday, that was very highly recommended to me.
Right. Yeah, it's good fun. It was good fun, but I could only get through the first. I don't think I even got through the first season just because of time and all these other things. But I do want to kind of revisit it. But yeah, there could be too much.
To me, no such thing.
Sure, but when we're talking about things we haven't been able to start watching yet,
whether or not I have time to watch everything. Like, for example, I haven't watched a lot of the DC TV series, even though
me neither.
I hear Stargirl's very good, for example. I love that it's all there. I love that it's it's out there for me to watch if I choose to do so. So I don't think there's too much. I think keep it coming.
Sure. I mean, we've had how many, like 6 Marvel things this year?
Yeah, something so far. Like that. I mean,
it's been a lot. Like, was Black Widow this year, or was that late last year? I can't remember now. Like
Black Widow. Oh gosh, yeah, because that kept getting the schedule kept changing for that. So
but Shang-Chi we had this year. We've had the
Eternals, no, I think those may have been last year.
You think? I thought they were
2021.
Possibly. I know Eternals
Yeah, they
was
were.
probably
They
the
were.
end. But I mean,
Eternals. Yeah, I think those were
it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. But hey, it keeps us in podcasts.
Sure. Exactly.
This has been fun. I've really enjoyed doing this show. Thank you very much to everyone that tuned in. Thank you to everyone who listened on the podcast. Remember, there is a podcast version of this show if you would rather not see Liz's face. I completely understand. I'm thinking of just sort of blanking it out in future episodes and just having like a picture of I don't know, some comic character. Well, whichever comic character we're talking about, we could do that. Guys, write in if that's what you want me to do. You know what I mean? I'm here to bend to your will. If you just want to.
Well, I mean, I think it would be funnier to replace you with Ms. Marvel the whole time.
It can be arranged, Liz. It can be arranged. I mean, look, there you go. There you go.
There she is.
Beautiful logo that I made for the show. Oh, sorry, I've wiped you off there. Sorry about that. But yeah, that art, by the way, was Jorge Molina, I believe. That particular piece. I love the bubblegum poster.
Yeah, no,
it's a great poster. So yeah, next for us is She-Hulk. Well, hopefully we're going to do some stuff on The Boys and the Umbrella Academy. More surprises later on this year. I am hopefully working on a show with our buddy Keith Isles, which is going to kind of materialize a bit later on this year. But I won't say much about that. It's not about comics, weirdly enough. Not about comic book movies. It's about something different. So yeah, currently talking to him about that. I really hope it materializes, guys. Oh, we've gone over an hour, Liz.
Yep, I think
it's time to call it. So, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Do comment in the thing below, whatever they call that. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. We will get back to you on every comment. We do try and answer every comment. And we will read it out on whatever the next show is that we do. But thanks for watching. Congrats to everyone who made Miss Marvel such a great show. And we'll see you soon on The Crush. Goodbye.
Bye.